Episode 10, Tableau Conference 2024, Experience and Takeaways with Ray Givler and Karan Ambasht. Motivates you, boosts you, gives you some energy, and afterwards you come back, you're like, oh, this is great. I have so many ideas and I want to try out.
The whole energy around it and the excitement of people being there, and you see it even from the first day or some of the what they call the pre-game activities Sunday the day before. I mean, the people are just excited to be there.
Oh yeah, it was great. I think the energy and the inspiration that we take away from that conference is the biggest takeaway.
Welcome to the Data Nerd Podcast. I'm your host, Nisar Ahmed. Join me as we explore the inner data nerd inside all of us. Dive into the world of data alongside special guests who not only share their wealth of experience and knowledge, but also unveil what truly makes them data nerds. This podcast is brought to you by Business Intelligence. That's BIZNIS Intelligence. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Business Intelligence to stay up to date with Tableau training and the Data Nerd podcast. Connect with me on LinkedIn or stream the Data Nerd podcast across all major podcast platforms. Hey everyone, welcome to the Data Nerd podcast. Today I have a special episode lined up for us. I have Ray and Karan joining us today, and we are talking about the Tableau conference, our experience and takeaways. So I'm very excited for this, and I really want to get this scheduled shortly after the conference because it's still fresh in our mind, and it was a great experience for me, and I'm sure is the same for Ray and Karan, and we'll get into that as we talk about our experience and takeaways from Tableau conference. But before we do that, for those who do not know Ray or Karan, actually you should know them because they're very popular on LinkedIn, and if you have not connected with them, please make sure you do connect with them on LinkedIn. But let me provide an introduction on both Ray and Karan. So Ray Givler is a provider analytics consultant for the Helion division of Highmark, one of the largest blended health organizations in the US. He is a lifelong learner who creates self-service analytics, improve efficiencies and transitions to care. Outside work, Ray enjoys fitness, reading, self-improvement, and knowledge sharing. And Karan Ambasht is a senior digital marketing analyst at Highmark Health as well. They both work at the same company, a healthcare delivery and financing system. With a strong background in Tableau and Alteryx, his primary focus is on establishing efficient data infrastructure and collaborating with marketing strategists to ensure data-driven campaigns. So as I mentioned, I had the pleasure of meeting both Ray and Karan. We actually met at the healthcare meetup. Actually, no, Ray, we actually met beforehand by chance at the data night out the night before. So that was great. But I think that's one of the good things I like about the Tableau conference, not just the learning, but actually the people that you meet. I feel like I kind of know you guys on LinkedIn, but it kind of comes full circle when we meet in person, and the networking that happens there is a huge plus and something that I look forward to. So, welcome, Ray and Karan, to the Data Nerd podcast. I appreciate you both coming on.
Sure, thanks for being here.
Yep, thank you for having us.
Awesome. So before we get started, I like to ask this question to all my guests. Right? This is the Data Nerd podcast, and I like to ask if you're a data nerd. And if so, tell me your story and when you realized you are one. So we'll start off, Ray, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, when did I realize I was a data nerd? In retrospect, definitely it evidenced in youth, like back as an early teenager when I was playing like Dungeons and Dragons, because there's a lot of there's like probability in there. You're rolling the dice, you're tracking numbers, armor class, hit points, and this sort of thing, and levels, and making these calculations about things. And then I would say like later in life, I really embraced it. And I have all my data nerd merch that I wear, and One
We
of the
both got
reasons
the same
yeah,
sweatshirt on,
similar
different
sweatshirts
colors.
on here.
Yeah.
And at least if I get, this stuff, my teenager won't borrow these clothes. So that's one benefit. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I never really got into those board games in my younger years, but I know that those who have were really how would I say, passionate about it, right? Are you still into it, into Dungeons and Dragons?
No, I haven't really played in years. I do play board games though, and I know there's a fairly big intersection amongst analytics people and playing board games.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Thanks, Ray. Karan, how about you? Are you a data nerd, and when did you realize you were one?
Yeah, definitely a data nerd. And I think when I was listening to Ray, some of these are definitely, interest points growing up, but it was definitely not around data. Say so, mathematics was always an interest, but I think it was pretty late in my professional career when I was doing my grad school here, is when I realized that this is definitely something I would want to pursue. Just the imagining the possibilities, you have like, a short 3-column data set, and the possibilities of what you can take out of it was just so exciting, and still excites me at this point, where if we see something and I'm like, oh, nice, we can get so much out of it. And it's just, more than just those rows and columns. So I think it comes down to it, and it's always exciting to, gathering those kind of insights from that. Yeah.
So you studied, I'm assuming you studied a field related to data analytics?
So it was a more general category, information systems and management, where I
Yes.
was introduced to a part of it. I know a lot of colleges now have like an analytics track. Even when I was graduating, it had an analytics track, but because I didn't have an experience, I didn't get into it. But I ended up taking probably the same coursework that they took. So it was a natural inclination towards doing a lot more, especially towards the end of my graduation. So yeah.
Yeah, I studied my bachelor's degree is also in management information systems. So I think it's along the same lines, right?
Yep.
Yeah, great, awesome. No, nice hearing those stories, and it's a nice lead in into our conversation today, right? And so again, we're talking about Tableau conference. We met Tableau conference. We've been there. Can you guys tell me about what motivated you to go to Tableau conference, and how many conferences have you been to? Ray, you want to start us off?
Sure, this was my first one. I've been wanting to go for like 7 years, believe it or not. Early on, the conference was always kind of overlapping with a really busy part of the year with my responsibilities at the time, and I couldn't go. Then the pandemic hit, and then last year I couldn't go for some other reasons. So I finally got there this year, and I wanted just, I guess, probably the usual motivations. Wanted to learn new things, get tips, exchange ideas, meet people, kind of, network, find out what's coming up in the tool. So all those things really were the
Nice.
motivations. Yeah.
They used to be held in the fall, and I
Yeah,
think they
like
changed it to
October.
yeah, October, November. They changed it, I
Mhm.
think, a couple years ago. I think after Salesforce acquired Tableau, because Salesforce has their own conference in the fall, I think they didn't want it to overlap, and so they
Okay.
switched it now to the springtime. Which actually, like, I do like the spring weather a little bit better than the fall weather, personally.
hmm
But great. No, so that was your first conference, and we'll talk about your experience as we get into the conversation. But Karan, how about you? How many conferences have you been to, and what motivated you to attend this one?
Yeah, so this was my second one. My first one was in 2019 in Vegas. So definitely when I did it the first time, a lot of discussion was around trying to learn more of the technical aspects of it. So I remember 2018, 2019, I was having a lot of discussions with my team about, okay, I would definitely want to, learn more. And it was such an exciting proposal about, that was, I have never been to a conference before. So I was like, oh, everybody else is as excited as I am about analytics, about Tableau. So my first one was pretty busy about, learning all the technical stuff and getting to meet people. But this time around, the motivation was actually having like a primary focus to meet folks like you, everybody else, the community meetups, the sessions, and it's always great to have that kind of camaraderie in the community. So that was my primary motivation. Alongside, of course, there are so many things happening with Tableau, the Einstein Copilot, and all the other new features are one of the reasons I wanted to attend the conference this year.
Yeah, and I think my initial my first conference was, I forget if it was 2016 or 17, but it was in Austin, Texas. So I've been to, I think, 6 now. I try to go every year. But uh, similarly, when I was going, my initial intent was for technical reasons, right? I wanted to go to the sessions and attend as many as I can and learn as much as I can. What I realized after attending that initial conference was this is not just to learn technical knowledge, but also what I enjoyed the most is like, we're wearing the shirt, the data fam, the experience, the people. It really, I don't know, motivates you, boosts you, gives you some energy, and afterwards you come back, you're like, oh, this is great. I have so many ideas and I want to try out. This is what I've learned, not just from the sessions themselves, but from talking to people like you, right? And seeing what you guys are doing. I don't, do you guys feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The whole energy around it and the excitement of people being there, and you see it even from the first day, or uh, some of the what they call the pregame activities Sunday the day before. I mean, the people are just excited to be there, and you just find out, just little tips from people, and some are even in retrospect. Like I saw a guy in the airport, Zach Bowders. He's one of the visionaries.
Mhm.
I was talking to him a little bit, and it's like, oh, you should check the recordings of this session. It was really great, or this other one. So, it's just kind of end to end that the kind of personal exchanges and idea exchange. It was really good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's so many sessions that you can choose from. Like it's hard. Like at any given time, like there's so many different options
Ye-
available.
Yeah, I laughed because I marked before the conference my favorites, the ones I was interested in, and it was like 68 sessions.
Yeah.
So then, like, I looked on the schedule, and there were like 10 of them listed out at each time. So I was like, well, all right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to prioritize.
Ray attended every one of them.
No, I mean, yeah, we
Yeah.
can get
So
into that more, but yeah, I mean, there's just so
what
much interesting.
percent of the sessions you wanted to attend did you actually attend?
Oh, I mean, based on that, it wasn't even possible. So, I
Yeah.
mean, once I narrowed it, let's modify the question. The percent of the like
I mean,
prioritized
this
ones.
is a data nerd podcast. We got to bring numbers in, right?
Yeah, so like of the
Have you not done
prioritized.
your analysis yet?
No, but of the prioritized ones, I'd say maybe 75% of the
Oh,
ones I got.
that's not too bad. That's not too bad.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are
Yeah.
ones where I said, all right, I really want to get to this, and I kind of missed the first one because I didn't really, and I'm kind of jumping around on the questions I know here. Um, didn't didn't really sink in like how eager people are going to be and they're going to line up for stuff. So that first one, I was like, oh man, I'm not going to get in that. But then after that, the ones that were important to me, I got there early.
Yeah. 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 Great. How about you, Karan? How was your experience in like just meeting the community and coming to the Tableau conference?
Oh yeah, yeah, it was great. I think the energy and the inspiration that we take away from that conference is the biggest takeaway. And as Ray suggested, like some of these initial list of sessions that I wanted to, I took an iterative approach to it, and then trying to just narrow it down to the ones that I would be able to move around. And of course, like just physically moving that much through the day, so you have to plan accordingly. So I ended up attending again, like I think 70 or 80% of it. But I wanted to make sure that I had alternatives because it was getting filled up pretty quickly. And you need to have some time in between also to, I think, just being around the data village, for example, allowed me to meet up with so many people I've been looking out to, and I've been following on LinkedIn for such a long time. So it was great to meet up with everybody there. Yeah.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, right? Because the sessions, like the time in between sessions is very short. Just like even just getting there, just like it's a huge conference center, right? And so
Mhm.
Yeah.
you may not even get there in time. And so sometimes what happens is that you finish one session and like, okay, I gotta make it to this one in 5 minutes, but you get there and it's full,
Yeah.
right? Some of the sessions you gotta, the really popular ones, you gotta be there like an hour in advance, and so you need to keep some buffer room. But then, as you mentioned, Karan, like the data village is kind of like your buffer, right? When you can't make any
Yeah.
sessions, you go to data village, you walk around, you talk to people. There are sessions going on there as well, so you could kind of
Mhm.
browse around and kind of
Mhm.
jump in and out of different sessions as well. So I think that's it's a very nice setup in that way, the way that Tableau has it set up.
Yeah, I think it's good to use the data village as kind of the home base.
Yeah,
Like you're saying, like if you don't have anything
Yeah.
else to do, you miss something, go to data village, see what's going on there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your takeaways from Tableau conference, right? What would you say are your key takeaways from this conference? You want to start off, Karan? Let's start off with you.
Yeah. And I think I've said it so many times now, like the takeaway was the inspiration and meeting everybody. But apart from that, of course, like there are, the technical aspects of it. So, for example, Einstein Copilot was one of the things. Although, there are different versions of, Tableau desktop that are available in the organizations, I do like the fact that we are aware of what's incoming. Einstein Copilot, Tableau Pulse, definitely a lot of new functionalities on Tableau Public, which I was excited about. That was another thing that I saw that you when you meet people who have been so busy in the Tableau Public arena, and then you meet them there, they are just humble enough to have that conversation with you, and they're
Mm,
like, oh yeah, I have been following your posts, and I was like, well, okay. And then that's the humility that comes with it is what inspires me, is because I'm like, okay, I can schedule some time at least once in a couple of weeks to maybe do something on Tableau Public. So that was one of the other takeaways that I had noted down, is like, well, I need to contribute a bit more, maybe just pushing yourself a bit, that helps both the community as well as me. So yeah, a lot of good takeaways. Yeah.
yeah, and I think not just on Tableau Public, right? Like just even on platforms like LinkedIn, right? And I think both of you are pretty active on LinkedIn as well. And to be honest, it was a humbling experience for me to meet both of you, right? And you guys are so down to earth, and it's great to meet folks like you. But touching on your points, Karan, on Tableau Pulse and Einstein Copilot. For those of us who don't know or maybe did not attend Tableau conference, you want to give a little like maybe brief high level overview on what that is and what it is that, because I know that a lot of the focus now um in any industry or any tool is on like artificial intelligence, and I think Tableau is really trying to push that, and I think Tableau Pulse and Einstein Copilot are kind of lend a hand towards that as well, right?
Yeah. And Pulse is, if people listening, they have worked with metrics and alerts before. It's one of the underused capabilities, I would say, where even I have been using it, but not to the extent that it was helpful for everybody. So alerts and all the metrics have been sort of been combined into Tableau Pulse. So it's a unified solution in that way for us to keep track on the key process indicators. So you select one KPI, which will always be, something that you want to, keep a quote unquote pulse on. and that becomes your focus in a particular dashboard. So Tableau Pulse allows you to do that real time, tracking, for lack of a better term, tracking of a metric. And Einstein Copilot, in a very short one sentence would be chat GPT for your Tableau dashboards. So you see an AI assistant in your right window in a Tableau dashboard, where you can ask questions. Again, I think in its initial days, ask data has been around but has been underutilized. We all know that, at least from what I'm aware of, it's not something that is utilized as much as Tableau would want us to do. So now that there are more interfaces available with ChatGPT, of course, everything has changed around that. So Einstein Copilot allows you to do that in asking those questions easily.
I feel like the Einstein Copilot is a rebranding of that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and with I think just the the upgraded UI and making things much more easier, Tableau has been kind of going towards that direction, and just ChatGPT, I think, just slinked everything into the future, with everything being updated really, really quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. And Ray, I'm going to get your insights as well, but a lot of good points that I want to kind of touch on with Karan. Just one more before we get to yours. And Ray, you can jump in at any time as
Sure.
well. The Tableau public a change, right? And this is one that was very interesting, right? Because so right now, the way that Tableau, or before, the way that Tableau public was structured was you could only save or publish online. So it's free. Tableau Public's free for anyone to use. And it's a great way to learn and see other people's work. But the one thing that was, I wouldn't say a downfall, but a setback was that, and anytime you use Tableau Public, you can't save it locally on your computer.
Right.
It has to be published online, and anyone has access to that. Now they changed it so that you can actually save a local copy of it on your computer and share that local copy, to the point where now I feel like Tableau's free. Obviously, there's limitations, right? You can't connect to databases or servers or anything, but any type of flat file, Excel files or whatnot, like you can do whatever you want, and with no cost, and the barrier to entry is much less. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is to keep up with one of their competitors, to be named, to be not to give out names, but I think we know who we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So that their the selling point for the competitor was that the barrier to entry was less, and I think now Tableau is at that point where they're in a similar boat.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to have, competition with another tool and things like this result. And, I was just using Public yesterday on my machine, and I got the prompt to upgrade, right? So I upgraded, and I had my first use case of saving locally right there.
Yeah.
I was looking at someone else's like big workbook explaining multiple LOD examples, and I wanted to kind of mess with it myself and try some things out and save what I did, but I didn't want out there on Public because it's just a variation of someone else's work. And yeah, I can keep it hidden, but it's better just to have it on my own machine. Why upload it to something on Public? So yeah, I did it. I'm using that functionality, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's a great addition. It seems very simple, but I think it has a, a great impact on in the way people may start using the tool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Ray. So let's talk about your takeaways from the conference.
I mean, kind of same as Karan. AI is going to play, and we all know, a bigger role in our jobs, and I think our jobs are going to change over time as some of that exploratory data analysis is pushed to our business users, as that's facilitated to them. So just, that whole concept. Technically, I also saw the shared dimensions in the data village that was demoed. I still have to wrap my head around all the implications that's going to have for how we model data and what kind of questions that's going to enable us to answer versus the previous capabilities. Excuse me. Another takeaway was I was kind of hesitant to meet a couple people that I didn't know that well, and because I figured, I'm going to be so busy, blah blah blah. But I think some of the people that I met and really didn't know were some of the best connections I made there, like and yourself included. And there was another guy from Israel, Mayor Frid, and I connected with him in one session, and he had asked to meet me, and then we were just standing in line. I didn't even know, and he said, "Hey, Ray," and just kind of
That's how we met,
this,
right? We met the same way, right?
yeah, the same thing with you, like, "Hey, Ray," and then
Yeah.
which kind of was another aspect of it. I went into it kind of thinking that maybe a lot of people would recognize me from LinkedIn, and there were some, and it was good, the spontaneous things like that, but there were maybe less. It was weird. It was kind of almost a paradox. Some people met me like that I didn't expect, like that I had exchanged some like comments with somebody actually from X or Twitter a couple years ago, and they were like, I talked to you. I'm like, really? And then they showed me something like an image, like their avatar. Like, oh yeah, all right. I know you. I didn't recognize their face.
Yeah.
And then even like the reverse, like some a visionary saw me at the data night out, and I was like, oh, should I bother that guy? And he said, hey Ray, like he knew my name just from my stuff on LinkedIn and things. So it was really a great aspect of it.
I think
You look like you have some. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I think you're humbling yourself. I think you are more well known than you give yourself credit, right? Karan, would you agree with me?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And for me, it's even much. I mean, it's like we are in the same organization for a long time. So I'm always talking to Ray. Like whenever I'm talking to Ray, I'm like, Ray, this is so helpful. I mean, everything that you put out on LinkedIn has been so helpful for so many people.
Yeah.
So absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
in the education space as well. So the three of us all work in healthcare, right? But I also teach data analytics and Tableau on the side, and there's so much that I get from both of you actually on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn's a great platform, not just for networking, but for learning as well. And I really appreciate the posts that you guys put out there because I learned so much from them, and sometimes I take some of that and I teach that to my students. I'm like, oh, I learned this, and these are some new things that I can apply. And so it's great to have that community. We're talking about community, right? And then meeting in person at Tableau conference is just, it kind of puts everything full circle, right? Um, I feel like I know you guys, but now when you meet in person, I think now I could officially stamp us as being connected, right?
Yeah.
sure.
That's
Yeah.
that's one of the great things about the Tableau conference is
Yeah,
those.
there's one thing that I wanted to add.
Yeah,
Sorry to cut you off, but it was funny, and I think it's a great takeaway for everybody, including me, when I was talking to Ray, and when Ray said, at the conference that, oh yeah, there's Nisar, I wanted to talk to him. My first reaction was, oh, go ahead and talk to him. I'll just stay here. Right. So I was like, oh, I don't think he'll have enough time for, him to talk to both of us. And Ray was like, hey, come along. Right. So I think that's the part, like the second guessing is the part that has, personally stopped me from doing a lot of things. As you said, like on LinkedIn, even some of the thoughts that because we have been doing it every day, it kind of becomes second nature. But when we post it out in the world, it's so much learning for everybody. Even if it's for somebody is starting out, it's a big takeaway for them. So I just wanted to add that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
No, I love that you came and I came to introduce yourself to me. That was, I think for the most part, most people who are at Tableau conference are very open to meeting. I've
Sure.
never been turned down by anyone, and everyone is very nice and welcoming. And again, I think that's one of the great parts of these conference and the data community in general. So it's great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's shift our discussion to, I know we talked about some of the takeaways, whether it be community and some of the key insights or whatnot. So there were different types of sessions here at the conference, right? You have breakout sessions, you have hands-on sessions, You have the keynote sessions where they talk about some of the upcoming new features and announcements. And then there was also the Iron Viz competition. Did you guys get a chance to attend the Iron Viz competition? You guys want to talk about that? What it is, and Ray, this might be your first time attending it in person. I don't know if Karan, you did it in 2019, but you want to talk about the Iron Viz and some of your experience there and takeaways?
Sure. For Iron Viz, I had competed in a qualifier twice, and I
Mm.
was kind of really excited about it. And here's the irony: like I really wanted to see it, but like we chatted about a little before you started the recording. I was still on East Coast time, and I had woken up
Oh
at
yeah,
like 3:30 a.m. that morning. And by the time it rolled around to like 4 out there, I was just like getting really, really tired. And sometimes when I get tired like that, I get queasy too. So that's how I kind of felt
yeah,
heading toward it. And I thought, oh, I'm going to power through it. And I went there, and they were putting those clapping noodles together on the way, like
yeah,
balance. I was like, I just can't do it. And I wanted to go to data night out too. So I actually missed it. I went back to my hotel and rested for a couple hours. So like it's something like I really, really wanted to see, but I ended up, having to make a decision there, and I saved my energy and went to, saved it for data night out. But I understand it was like just amazing there, and that people were super, super excited, and yeah. So
yeah. I
I
was
kind of missed out.
I was also in a similar boat. I was very tired. And I just powered through it. I was like, you know what? You know, once a year thing. I'll just go to sleep earlier that night and power through it. So, it was, I don't know, Karan, did you attend the
I
Iron?
Yeah, so for me, it happened quite the opposite. So I attended the Iron Viz, and by the time it ended, I was quite tired of everything, and I missed the data night out actually, which was a big miss on my end. I think I should have probably skipped some part of it and then kind of rested a bit. But that's a big takeaway. I think that's how important it is to kind of plan things out,
Yeah.
because I was easily getting, I think, around 13,000 or 14,000 steps a day, at least throughout the day. So I was like, okay, I need to rest up a bit. But Iron Viz was definitely, I think that's the experience again, like, because it's something where everybody is there and you just are looking at some of the best visualizations and looking at it while it's being also built up is such a great experience. I had a similar experience in 2019, so definitely, yeah, great experience overall.
Yeah, they make it in a way where it's they make it a show. I
Yeah.
think it's good. They excite people, like as said, they give those what do you call it? The those little clappers for
Yeah, yeah.
everyone. And people make noise and they get excited as they watch what's being developed right in front of them. And it amazes me, and obviously I know that they're prepared in advance, but to still only have 20 minutes to build this
Yeah.
dashboard, it's not a lot of time. If For those who are in this space and have developed in Tableau, 20 minutes to develop the full dashboard is not a lot of time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's not just about being good, but being fast.
Mhm.
Um, and then explaining. I think that's the key part that I think people in general, when they're working with tools like Tableau, may not put a lot of emphasis on the communication aspect. Okay. But I think that is an important aspect. And what I noticed about all three of the contestants up there was that they're not just good technically, but they're able to communicate what they built and the insights from the dashboard. And I think you need to have that skill set as if you're working in Tableau. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, you want to go first?
Well, I mean, absolutely. You have to be able to, explain what you're building because there's always going to be aspects of it that are not as clear to the end user as they are to you. And this actually came when Tableau was, I think the first year it was virtual. I was in one of the, they had the brain dates back then, and I was in one of those, and excuse me, some guy explained the concept of office hours. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? I already have my help in my dashboard, and I'm, labeling everything, and what questions could there be? But, he explained that his company, they had a regular cadence where they got together with the users, and just, some of it is structured, and then there's an open unstructured part of it where, open to questions from the users. And then we implemented that in our company. And so we're always presenting in that, and we may present outside of it as well. But it just speaks to that, needing to be able to present your dashboards, explain things, get the users to understand what's going on. It's definitely a required skill in analytics.
You talked about the brain dates. That's something that they don't have anymore. They used to have. I actually enjoyed that. I'm not sure why they took it away. I have some ideas, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I think perhaps people use that platform for other reasons, and and perhaps that's why they took it. I'm just guessing, but it forces. That was a good way to network and connect with people, and I've met people that way. But now it feels like if you want to network, you have to kind of take the initiative yourself and just like go up to someone and say hi, or like go to the meetups and start talking. So the
Right.
dynamic is a little different now.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think someone told me something was available for brain dates, and I couldn't find it anywhere. Like they mentioned someone
Yeah.
I met in the airport, so I'm still not sure what they were referring to. But even if it were just like an electronic facilitation of meeting in person there to discuss things, like I think that would be a good add-on, like kind of a brain trust thing, like, hey, I got this design idea, what do you think about it? Or kind of another meetup could be, hey, I did this thing I'm excited about on Tableau Public. Would you like to see how it works? That sort of thing. I think you get a lot of little pods going on in there in the
Yeah.
data village for something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good ideas.
Yeah. And with the community meetups, actually, I found it to be a bit restrictive in that sense, where I think it was just focused on, because it was focused on the vertical. So it was education, healthcare, and possibly like 4 or 5 sessions in a day. So it kind of restricts, even if I want to have, go ahead and do some of the other meetups, it kind of restricts me from doing it, I would say, because of, so many other things happening in parallel. So that's why I think the brain dates were a great idea. I attended one of those in 2019. It was a great experience, getting to know what others are doing, and even helped out a couple of things where we were struggling with. So definitely, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the thing with the brain dates is sometimes that can take up your entire day. And I think perhaps that's what some people were doing, and maybe I don't know. I who knows why they don't have it anymore. But I feel like they wanted to shift the focus more on people attending the sessions themselves rather than just going there for the brain dates.
yeah,
And then again, just still uh, I guess just still room for networking and like you said, meetups and whatnot.
Hmm.
yeah.
So um talk to me about, so we went to the conference, or you guys have gone as well. You learned a lot, right? How do you plan to implement what you've learned at the conference, post-conference?
You want to go first, Karan?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So uh, one thing that definitely kind of restricts a bit of it is, as I said, like, because sometimes we are a bit behind in the Tableau versions, which will have the capability in the future. I think definitely one of the key takeaways that this is upcoming, so it helps us in planning accordingly. Where if we are planning to do, for example, something which Pulse does right now, so we are trying to use more metrics, but with Pulse, it will eventually, get us a more enhanced capability for that. So that's one of the things that I'm thinking of implementing on a more wider scale with my stakeholders. Again, with Einstein Copilot, I would say these are some of the discussions that we are already having with ChatGPT being in the market, where, or would there be a capability like this? So it allows me to then have these discussions with my team, with my stakeholders, that in the future we will have these capabilities inbuilt. And of course, a lot of those technical sessions where we learn about designing, storytelling, as you said, during the Iron Ways, I think storytelling is such an important piece of it. Every time you think that, okay, I'm at a place where I'm getting good at it, there's some other session that you attend and like, oh, I never thought about it, right? So like kind of simplifying everything and getting to a point, it's very hard when you are really deep down into some of these technical details. So I took a lot of notes on design specifically because I know I'm one of those overthinkers where one LOD calc is more important than cleaning up the dashboard, possibly. And I
Yeah.
had to restrict myself, continuously reminding myself that no, let's just dial back and have some of those conversations with the stakeholders. So yeah, I think that was great to learn from multiple sessions, actually. Yeah.
And I think part of working in Tableau is not just the technical side, right? Like you said, LOD calculations, but then there's the whole UX or design aspect to it as well. And you need to have a little bit of both to be good at it, or have your dashboards be impactful. Um,
Yeah.
and, s-
Yeah.
and some of the points you mentioned about the versions that we may be working with at work are not up to date, right? I know it's probably the same case for you guys, but for me, our versions are not always the most recent because it takes time to roll out new versions and test it out, right? And so you learn something at Tableau conference, you come back, you're like, I can't do it quite yet, but I gotta wait a little bit before the new version's out. But I think that's also why this Tableau Public is great, because you can still try it out yourself on Tableau Public.
Right, right. That's how I keep up with stuff is as far as the latest functionality. I have Tableau Public on my home machine. And obviously I work at the same company as Karan, so we're on the same version there. But interestingly, we kind of don't use extensions at work, but I was finding out about them that some are free and some have no external references. So I may push to and I'll at least explore them more myself and then see if we can get those implemented at work. And also Tableau Prep. I gotta look into the licensing. I'm hearing that, we're not using it at work, but according to the licensing, I heard that it just comes with Tableau. So maybe
Yeah.
that would be an avenue we could explore in addition to, upcoming functionality. So I was also in a session about maps, which we're starting to use a lot more extensively in my group. And I was learning some advanced stuff about like intersecting buffers and things like that. So there's always, something new. I mean, the functionality of Tableau is just so vast. You can end up more like specialized in some sections of it. So there's always something out there you can leverage that you might not be aware of. So there's always something to bring back.
Yeah, I agree. It's always something that you learned that you didn't know was possible and you want to try to implement. We talked a lot about Tableau Prep, Ray, right? And I think that's something, I think Tableau Prep came out, I don't know, it's been 5 years now, I think. Um, I think it's come a long way. And I see a lot of people using it now. Um, it is included with Tableau, but I think in order to use or productionalize it, it doesn't come with um, mm, a server license, and so that's an additional cost. But at least to try it out and see how it works, to see if it's something worthwhile, it is something that's available for everyone to use for free.
Yeah, I did get a chance to work with Tableau Prep in my organization before this. So it is definitely, as you said, it has come across and has evolved over time. So I found it a great way, especially when you're working with Tableau Desktop. It kind of blends in, and you have kind of like a similar UI who you're working with. With I think some of the new functionalities with that, I think it was categorizations and multi-row functionalities being evolved possibly every year with some of the newer versions. So yeah.
Yeah. I know before Tableau Prep, people used Alteryx, right? People still use it now, but I think it's a good alternative, especially for people working in Tableau, and especially if you're the person who's preparing the data, right? If you don't have a dedicated team of, data engineers kind of building the pipeline for you, Tableau Prep's a good way to kind of do the whole thing from beginning to end, from data prep to development to productionalize. So I think it's a great tool for a lot of people to take advantage of.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of difference. I've been in both places where one of my teams had a couple of people who were experts, and then they take care of everything. But it kind of stunted me in getting that understanding, and I wouldn't reach out to them for every smaller changes sometimes. But when I'm doing it on my own, it becomes a much more, because I'm just thinking about it all the time. It becomes much more easier for me to play around with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. Great. No, this was a great discussion. And so much more we can talk about, but um, to end it off, I wanted to ask you guys, um, what advice would you guys give to someone who may not have gone to Tableau conference or wants to attend it for the first time? Do you have any advice you want to give to them, and maybe looking back, some of your most valuable experiences from the conference as well? Hey, you want to start off?
Sure. My advice would be to have a plan going into it, but be ready to modify that plan as soon as things start, because you never know what's going to happen. So, pick your most important sessions you want to get to and have a backup for those. Be ready to modify. Don't overbook. And these are some of the things that I read beforehand, but it really didn't sink in until I was actually there. So, like, believe it when people say that. It really can be deceiving, the distance between some of the
Yep.
sessions. You see a little electronic map, and then you realize, like, my gosh, that's like actually a 15-minute walk or something.
Yeah.
So have your plan. Prioritize, limit your scope, and just really don't be afraid to talk to people there. If you're waiting in line, it's a great time to network. At lunch, sit down, talk to
Yes.
whoever's there, wherever the opening is. And even if you sit by yourself, someone might come and sit with you. And just they'll strike up a conversation, and you never know, they may be in the same industry. And that's how it happened with me. Somebody from uh, healthcare doing hospital work, and I'm doing a lot of hospital oriented data right now, and Highmark. So that was an interesting opportunity. So yeah, be open about talking to people, and
And wear comfortable shoes, right?
yeah. Wear comfortable for sure. I got new sneakers for the trip, and it paid off.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think some of that, like you said, network, even at lunch, right? You don't know who you're sitting with, and so for the most part, every time I've gone to, so a Tableau conference, the lunch is held in a large hall with round tables, right? And each desk has, I don't know, what, 10 to 12 chairs. And so you sit down, and then the other people at the table. And I think it's designed in a way that makes it very easy to network with people, because, you're having a meal, and, there are other people at the table, and you start talking with them. And so it's great. So those are great points, Ray. How about you, Karan? What advice would you give to someone who's looking to go to Tableau Conference for the first time? And what's some of your most valuable experiences from the conference?
Yeah, definitely. And in complete agreement with what Ray said about, the sessions, especially if you see there are ways of looking at sessions which will be available in the future. So I always had two sessions marked up for this around the same time. So that gave me a quick way for things to switch around if the room was full. So I had that as a backup plan, and I had about a half an hour or an hour in between to make sure that I'm just moving around, especially Data Village. I think I just um, forted around Data Village this time. I was like, okay, I'll make sure that I'm attending some of the theater sessions there, which happen within the Data Village itself, and just took care of, not a lot of moving around. If I had to, yes, I would. But I just started making sure that, I'm giving myself some time to things to sink in, and then also making, I think the primary idea was that I can watch these sessions later on, but I'm not in any way going to meet people online. There's no way for me to do this. And as we said, like, lunches are a great way of doing this again, where everybody is just, having those discussions. Yeah, just I think having that focus on getting a mix of it is the best part of it, because just doing one part of it will kind of, yeah, take it out of you a lot, and you'll be more tired than you would imagine. So yeah.
Yeah. I think you were forward thinking, Karan, where you kind of built in that buffer, for, in between sessions. And that's like, to me, when I look at it, I'm like, oh, I want to go to everything, but it doesn't end up happening that way. And I think you do need to set some time apart to, just spend time exploring in Data Village, because it's that experience there is beneficial as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. So are you guys, will I see you guys again in the future conferences? Are you guys planning to go next? I think it's in San Diego again next year. That's what they announced in 2025.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead. Great.
We'll see what happens. I would like to. Not a lot of people from our company went, so I don't know if I'll be like rotating, letting someone else from the team go. Depends on budgets and things like that. But I certainly would like to go again next year for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Likewise. And it sometimes also is a choice between conferences. So it's definitely something I would love to. But I would also like to explore other avenues, and having, something where, we get to meet more people is always a great opportunity. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here. And hopefully our paths cross again in the future. And it's great to meet up with you guys. And I'm sure in the future we'll have other opportunities to do so as well. So before we end off, how can people get in touch with you guys? How can they connect? Is LinkedIn the best way to connect with you guys?
Yeah, for sure. Just look me up. I'm the only Ray Givler out there, and reach out for a connection. I'll accept it.
Yeah, I'll put up your LinkedIn profile in this description in the podcast. So if anyone wants to connect, and Karan, I'll do the same for you as well. Is LinkedIn the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best way for getting in touch. I think learning everything from that platform, from the community. So happy to connect. Yeah.
Yeah, and please do follow, even if you don't connect with, follow both Ray and Karan. Great follows on LinkedIn. I know I've learned a lot. I'm sure everyone can learn as well. So this was great. Thank you both for joining the Data Nerd podcast and having this discussion.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thank you so much.